Welcome to episode number 59 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I am your host this last Friday of February 2026. Thank you so much for joining me. I think we've got a really interesting show, really good show for you today with my guest, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Before we get started, I want to thank you as always for being part of this little podcast journey. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. If you're new to this, my name is Bill Petrie, and I am still your host. After almost 60 episodes, they still let me do it. Awesome. Hey, you know what else is awesome? Our good friends at Coaster Stone. You know, in 2026, your clients are looking for more than just a product with their logo on it. They're looking for rock solid merchandise solutions that are more than just innovative. They're going to be used for months and even years to come. Now, let me introduce you, or maybe even in some cases, let me reintroduce you to the good folks at Coaster Stone. Now, they are the original manufacturer of absorbent stone coasters with unmatched durability, quality, and gorgeous edge-to-edge decoration that allow your creative designs to come to life in vibrant, full color detail. Now, since 1983, Coaster Stone has set the standard when it comes to delivering retail-inspired experience to any client function. Instead of boring and plain packaging, who wants that? How about packaging options that are retail inspired and customizable? Coaster Stone delivers value far beyond the product itself. Also, did you know that they manufacture their pinback buttons right here in the USA? Well, they do, and they are an ideal, cost-effective, and fun piece of branded merchandise to help elevate any promotion. Now, with that combination of stone cold quality, striking decoration, cost per impression, and unmatched value, David Glenn and his team at Coaster Stone are ready to help you make a rock-solid impression with your clients. Email them at promo@coasterstone.com to start your next project today. All right, so I'm recording this on Wednesday, February 25th, and I know exactly what I'm going to talk about today in the opening shot. Today is an extraordinarily dark day here in Franklin, Tennessee, not just because it's overcast outside, but because the new In-N-Out burger is opening up about a mile from my house. Now, I want to talk about the cult of In-N-Out burger. It's very interesting to me. So like I said, there's a new In-N-Out opening today, literally a mile from my house. Now they've opened up a couple of stores in Lebanon, Antioch, Murfreesboro. So I've done a little bit around Nashville. This particular one is not only here in Franklin, Tennessee, it's also semi-attached to what is going to be their East Region headquarters, which they've been building for the past year or so. And that building's still about 6 months away from opening. And a lot of folks from corporate are coming here. They're hiring a lot. So that's always a good thing. But they're opening the store today. Now, when they opened up their stores in Lebanon and in Antioch and Murfreesboro, I can't believe I'm saying this, but people waited 2.5 hours for a fast food burger. Now, this is where people like my good friend Brandon Kennedy and Justin Zavito would tell me, Bill, you just don't understand. Actually, I do understand. I love Whataburger. Whataburger, I consider Whataburger and In-N-Out very equal competitors. Certainly a step above your traditional fast food and quick service and Wendy's, McDonald's, so on and so forth. I love Whataburger, but I would not wait a half hour for Whataburger, let alone 2.5 hours. I've had In-N-Out. It's a good burger. It's a very good burger. Their fries are garbage. Almost everybody agrees with that. The burger's fine. The burger's fine. But I really don't get this whole cult of this. My gosh, I've read online where people are flying in from Chicago, Louisville, Cleveland to Tennessee today so they can be here on the first day. Again, I don't get it. But what I know is the traffic is going to be horrendous. And if you know anything about Nashville and especially Franklin, this place has exploded in the last 10 or 15 years. And just like any other metropolitan area, the infrastructure has absolutely not caught up. And we are taxed to the max now. It's bad. And this is only going to really exacerbate things. Here's where I really question this. Like I said, I love Whataburger. You can certainly say I'm kind of a cultist for Whataburger, and there's a little bit of truth to that. But again, I wouldn't wait 2.5 hours for a Whataburger. I wouldn't even do that for a Dr. Pepper shake. Um, I don't understand this fascination. I get where you grew up. There's a nostalgia aspect to it. I love Whataburger. Mainly it's because what I grew up with in Texas. I love Whataburger. So my memory of what it is, that gives me warm feelings. And I certainly understand that for the folks who grew up in California and with In-N-Out Burger. I get that. But again, it's nostalgia. It's not worth waiting 2.5 hours for. Like I said, both are good burgers. The fries are, if you're putting a gun to my head, I'd say the burger's probably better at In-N-Out on just a quality basis. They use fresh meat. I think that's kind of cool. The fries are garbage at In-N-Out Burger. Shakes probably a wash. So here it is. But here are the truths I know. And this is where kind of impacts the promotional products industry. When you look at the online store for In-N-Out versus Whataburger, Whataburger absolutely kills it in the merch game. Absolutely kills it, whether it's shirts, whether it's collaborations. They've done some really great collaborations, or whether it's just really retro inspired apparel. You look at In-N-Out and it's just kind of blah. It's kind of yawn, which kind of surprised me given the cultish following that they have. And here's the other thing I know about In-N-Out. If you have to have a secret menu, your shit's broken. Just put up there what I can get. Just make it easy for me. Don't make me have to go online, study a secret menu, and feel the pressure of ordering and waiting 2.5 hours for my burger, hoping I got it right. So I want to hear from you. The whole cult of In-N-Out, in my opinion, is really such a nostalgia thing more than anything else. But man, I don't get it. I'm going to go to the In-N-Out. I'm not going today. I'm not going tomorrow. And I'm not going probably for 3 months until the traffic dies down. I will even avoid all the merchants in that area just because I don't want to deal with the traffic of the people going to get their fast food fix. But I want to hear from you. What is it about In-N-Out that I'm missing outside the cult and nostalgia factor? So I want to hear about that. All right. Before we bring on our guest, let's pay one last little bill, shall we? Hey, do you know what season it is? That's right. It's not only almost spring, ready for February to be over. It's also business valuation season. Now, perhaps you don't know what your company's worth. Maybe it's been more than a few years since your last valuation and you need a new benchmark to see if your company is increasing in value. Heck, you might want to even see if it's time to sell your business. Now, regardless of the reason, Jamie Watson and the experts over at Certified Marketing Consultants, they have extensive experience in the world of branded merchandise and the financial knowledge necessary to provide a fact-based valuation of your business. All you need to do is email them at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. All right, that's enough of me squawking and complaining about the traffic problems here in Franklin, Tennessee, because of a weirdly cultist fast food chain is moving in and infiltrating. Let's go ahead and get on to our guest. All right, my first guest today, he's really my only guest. I say it every week, but I have one guest, first guest, only guest. He is a branding and promotional product strategist at 1-800 T-Shirts, where he helps mid-sized companies turn branded apparel and merch into real business assets. Instead of treating branded merchandise as a one-off purchase, he works with teams to build scalable programs to strengthen culture, support recruiting, and drive brand visibility. He's passionate about helping companies use promotional products more intentionally, aligning every piece with purpose, performance, and impact. Now, I've known my guest for quite a while. He's a very honest man, and he shared with me that this was completely written by ChatGPT. So while it's true, it doesn't tell the whole story of the man. So if you want to learn more about our guest and see everything he's doing behind the scenes to grow it on 1-800 T-Shirts and build a gigantic real estate empire, follow him on LinkedIn or Facebook. Please join me in welcoming my friend, Mr. Tom Rauen. Tom, thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate it.
Yes, glad to be here.
Yeah, you are such an inspiration to me. We've talked about it a little bit. We've known each other, I think, about 5 or 6 years. Tell me how you got started in the branded merchandise space. I know it was I think it was Envision Tees, if I remember correct, and then
Yeah.
it morphed into 1-800 T-shirts. Tell me and both of our listeners about that journey.
So 20 years ago, at the ripe age of 23, I had just graduated from college and I was bartending at the time. And I just always knew like I was talking to different business owners and stuff. I was bartending and I graduated computer graphics degree, so I had like this kind of branding and graphics kind of brain. And I'd be like, all the stuff I was seeing was just really boring. And I knew throughout college, so throughout college, I would go, I'd come up with different ideas. I'd go to local screen printer, we'd print t-shirts up, and then I'd go around. So I'd get these t-shirts for like $4 or $5 at the time. And then I'd either go around the dorms or go tailgate in an Iowa football game and be hawking the t-shirts for $10 a pop. And I'd sell a couple hundred shirts. We'd have rent paid for, we'd have beer paid for. Life was good.
Yeah.
And so I knew how to do that. I kind of knew the industry a little bit through that. So I started in my parents' basement with a heat press and just start reaching out to the local high schools, local, t-ball, little league, stuff like that. And then all the business owners I'd gotten to know while bartending, and just offering up stuff like that. So it lasted about 3 months,
Hmm.
working out of the basement and quickly outgrew that, got our first storefront, and the
That's
rest is
crazy
history.
fast. Hold on. I'm stopping you there. That's crazy fast. 3 months.
Yeah.
Most college graduates with any degree don't get out of their parents' basement in 3 months. So that's pretty impressive.
So it was fast growth, but so in that 3 month time span, so that was like October, and then so let's see, that was October. We'd signed a lease for February 1st. I found a high track. I knew like we had to be in the bigger city, Dubuque, compared to little small town Farley with 1,200 people. And I also knew we had to be in like the center of town on high traffic areas. I remember people always just saying like location, location, location. Like you have to be
Right.
visible. And so people can see, where you're at, make it easy to get to. And so at that time we had 2000. So I went from like an 11 foot by 11 foot room. So what the hell is that, like 120
Two,
square feet?
120 square feet. Yeah.
Yeah, to 2,000 square feet, right?
Okay. So
And
almost double, but I bet you outgrew that in about 6 weeks.
yeah, so we go to 2,000 square feet, and I got no equipment except for a heat press. And so and
A single heat press.
a single heat press. And so at that time, we had gone down to that previous fall. We had gone right as this kind of started everything. We'd gone down to um, I think what would have been the equivalent of SGIA back then.
Okay.
Um, and that was in Atlanta. I remember that. We went down to Atlanta, saw the equipment, and like, okay, this is what we got to
Did
do here.
Did you fall in love with all the different sizes of presses? You had to have, given
Oh
you
yeah,
had
oh
one
yeah, I
heat
got it. You're
press.
gonna love this. This is gonna be good because our good friend Jay Bissell,
Yeah.
we crack up about this. So somewhere in this time frame, like of all this happening, like in the basement, I had found on in I think back then it was like online message boards or something, right? Like there was a forum, and I had ordered a Printa press.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I get the printer press, it shows up in my parents' garage, and I look at this thing and I'm like, and I don't know how to print a t-shirt except for heat press, right?
Right.
But I look at this thing and I'm like, I don't think this is right. And so, in like the little tiny dryer, the dryer's like 1 foot
Right.
by 1 foot, and like the press is like halfway falling apart. And like maybe they didn't ship it right or something.
Right.
And so it sat in my parents' garage in the corner, and I was like, "Oh man, this is a bad." And it was like $400 or something. I was like, "This
Well,
is
and that was had to be sizable for you. I mean, any
yeah,
investment like that is sizable. That represents, I mean, how many t-shirts do you got to heat press to have $400 lying around?
yeah." And so I got that. I'm like, I don't think that is right. And so ended up calling up M&R, and they talked me through it, and I got a four color four station or six color four station
Okay.
M&R Sidewinder. So I think that was probably about $4,000 at the time. So asked my parents for their credit card. Because I'm 23. I'm just out of college. I got no money. I'm
Right.
like,
You're
all right,
broke.
mom and dad, need the credit card. I will pay you back. I will pay this off. And so order a little dryer, order this press from M&R, and then we ordered a single head Tajima embroidery machine.
Oh,
And that
wow.
was like 20,000 bucks.
Yeah.
And so
By the
that
way,
was
what
like
I don't know your parents, but wonderful. How, I mean, it's a really not, I don't want to minimize it. That's great support. That is true support of your dream. That's awesome.
So my mom is an entrepreneur, and so she's like, "All right,
She
I'll
gets
do
it.
this," and she's like, "I'll join you on this. I'll run the embroidery machine, basically."
Oh, cool.
And so she joins on board to help out and get this thing kind of off the ground. And so we're at the new location. It's completely empty building basically because we just have a heat press and some boxes. And I see this thing for learn how to screen print with Scott Fresner at the Screen Printing Institute down in Tempe, Arizona.
Yeah.
So I fly down there in February. And so again, we just got this place. I fly down, do the 3 day class. As I'm down there, the embroidery machine shows up, the screen printing equipment shows up, everything shows up, and I'm all excited. I'm learning how to screen print, and then I get back, and of course, my mom's like, "Well, you did 3 day class, like, of course you know how to screen print now." And I did. I still didn't know what the heck I was doing. So
Right.
we did. So I am just full of energy and so excited. And so our first order, it was 600 t-shirts with a
That's
one color
sizable.
front, with a two
Okay.
color front
Okay.
and a six color back.
Oh, so you're maximizing the capabilities of your machine right out of the gate.
Yes, 100%. And so some part of that 3 day class, I missed the entire section on how to use the flash to dry the first layer, and that you actually need to put 2 coats of white ink. And
Yeah.
so these shirts, and then somewhere along the lines, I missed like what the standard size of like logos and stuff are. So this shirt is March Madness. It's got this big, giant shamrock on the front,
Yeah.
and because the vellum that we were putting in the printer, it was like 13 by 18 or something. I just assumed like that was the size of the print, not like
That's
11.
large.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, I didn't
large.
know that. I thought, I didn't realize like 11 inches by 11 inches is kind of a standard front, full front. So I'm printing this thing 13 by 18. The shamrock is so big on the front. When we deliver these at school, the teachers have their shirts tucked in, and half of the shamrock is tucked into
Oh
their
no.
into
Oh
their pants.
no.
So just and then the back was a rainbow, and that was where we had the 6 colors. It did not. There was no underbase on the rainbow on a green shirt. Absolute disasters. I stayed up 2 nights in a row working nonstop without
Fixing it.
sleeping, printing these shirts um, to hit the deadline,
Yeah.
basically. And I deliver them to the school. They're still hot right off the press with 2 days without sleeping. And I deliver them at like
Ugh.
9 a.m. for their big St. Patty's Day like pep rally thing. And none of them were centered. I missed that part of the class. So all of them were like halfway crooked, off
You
center.
made every shirt screen printing mistake in one project. It wasn't just a one thing here, it's a little off there. You did it all.
Yeah. And so trial and fire, right?
Yeah.
I had 600 chances to screw it up every single time and learn as much as I could. But
And you were undefeated in screwing up, apparently, on that order.
yeah, so we kept a couple of those, and I bring them out every year
Good.
as a
That's
reminder
great.
of, what, we've come a long way since then.
It's funny. Remember whenever I've trained somebody in the promotional products industry in their new, and it's a very simple industry, but there's so many weird little idiosyncrasies and complexities like what you're talking about. I mean, it seems easy. Put decoration here and distribute. It's so much more complex than that. And there's so many opportunities for failure. I always tell people when they're first starting out, don't go to your local dry cleaners, don't go to your local liquor store. I need you to go four towns over and go screw up their pen order, go screw up their shirt order because you will screw it up.
Yeah, no, it's good advice.
So where did you get the name? First of all, how did you secure the phone number 1-800 T-shirts? Because that's amazing. And
Yeah.
what led you to believe, okay, I need to move away from Envision tees to 1-800 T-shirts?
Yeah, so we started off as Envision Tees, or we started off as Envision Sports Designs, and so we were doing a lot of sports stuff. And then as we
Right.
grew more corporate stuff, we switched into Envision screen printing and embroidery. And I realized that was way too long. So then we shortened it to Envision Tees. And then after about 15 years of that, I realized that I was really just getting tired of answering the phone and having to spell out envision with an E
Yeah.
versus an I and then TEES versus TS. And
Right.
there was just so much confusion when it came to an email address or a website and spelling it out on the phone and just brand awareness from that front. So in 2015, I had read a book about, basically like scaling out and doing franchising and some licensing and stuff like that. And the guy had 1-800 Limos was his company that he had. And so I was like, you know what? I need 1-800 T-shirts. That's so much easier to spell.
Right.
I don't have to, redo it. And it's easy for people to remember. So I'd reach out to the owner of 1-800 T-shirts in 2015 and is Frank Newton. And the name of his business is Newton Screen Printing. And he just
Okay.
happened to have the 800 number and he happened to have the .com as well. So he had the
Okay.
domain, he had the phone number, but he wasn't really using it from a brand standpoint.
Uh-huh.
He just had it for like 30 some years. So I was like, hey,
Wow.
Frank, I want to buy this from you. He's like, well, that's my number. He's like, I can't just sell you that unless I sell you the whole business. He's like, I'm 60 right now. I'm planning on retiring in 5 years when I turn 65. So in 2020, I'm planning on selling
Uh-huh.
the business. So from 2015 to 2020, I built a relationship with Frank, kept in contact with him, sent him letters, called him, flew out, met with him, all this thing. So we kind of talked about it and we've been working through this for 5 years. And then 2020, COVID hits.
Right.
And we completely got, punched in the face, went from 40 some employees down to four.
Wow.
And, we're struggling to get through this thing and figure everything out. And Frank calls up and he's like, hey, I'm definitely ready to retire
I'm ready.
now. And I'm like, wow, this is not good timing. And so it was a big decision at that point because it was either okay, this is kind of an all-in moment, like we go for this,
Right.
and this is the shot in the arm that
Right.
gets us out of the pandemic, or it could completely, sink us. But we had nothing to lose at that point, as we were already
Sure.
sunken.
Everybody,
And
everybody was, with that, man, it's a good time for Hail Mary. I'll tell you mine in a second, but yeah, I totally get
yeah,
that.
yeah, so we worked out the terms then with it, and it was in the fall of 2020. We completed the acquisition. We operated kind of, and it actually ended up being like the Hail Mary pass that got the touchdown because it was this instant shot in the arm of all these new orders coming in,
Right.
new customers from a whole different. They were all East Coast from New Jersey and in that
Mhm.
area. And so it was this big boost coming into 2021. So 2021, we just catapulted from that. We operated for a couple of years, kind of co-branding.
Right. I remember
Um,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
and then eventually it was 2022 where we just ripped the band-aid out and said, all right, we're going to have a little funeral here for Envision and put that one to bed and just go all in on 1-800 T-shirts and, continue to just kind of grow and
Oh,
take that whole nother level.
yeah. And Envision had served its purpose. So it's okay to say goodbye. And I think that's where one of the things I really admire you about you, and I want to get to this restlessness you have, because you do have this restlessness, and I mean that in a good way. But you are astute enough to know when it's over, when it's time to say goodbye. And so many people cling on to what they think it used to be, what they still want it to be. where does that restlessness, where does that also that high actualization come from? Where where does the restlessness come from? I want to know that. That's I think what drives you. You're kind of a serial entrepreneur. I always joke I'm an accidental entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur because no one would hire me. I joke. That's not true, but kind of true, sort of true. It's true-ish, true adjacent. Um, but where's that restlessness come from, and how do you have that just astute knowledge to know, hey, it's time to move on?
Yeah, I think a lot of factors went into it. It was like, okay, that's who we were, and who we are moving forward is a whole different business. And
Right.
I say it from like we've grown at a rate of like 20% a year for 20 years in a row. And so I always look back at like, all right, customers we've lost along the way. I have no problem calling them up and saying, listen, if you had a bad experience with us or we didn't deliver on our promise or something like that, and that was 3 years ago, we're not the same company today. We are a different company right now. I'd love for you to give us a shot again because we've got different systems, processes, and people here today that will make that experience better than what you had in the past. You might have caught us when we
I
were
love
going
that.
through some growing pains or, some sort of transition where it was
Yeah.
like,
Or
holy crap.
just a bad order. Sometimes shit
Yeah.
goes bad.
Yep. So sometimes that happens. And so it was that realization. And then, the other part is like, well, people are like, well, you got 15 years of brand equity, right? And, I looked at it, I was like, yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, we're just like a tiny pin dot on the map. When you look at on national scale, so you've got big, Fortune 500 companies that rebrand,
Hmm.
and it's like, do you know how big that is? Like, and how many customers have? So I looked at it and was like,
Right.
okay, we have 1,200 active customers. So it isn't like I've got to shout and reach a million people and let them know that we rebranded.
Right.
I have to let 1,200 people know because those are our actual customers, right? Like
Right.
the other people that maybe know about us, if they're not our customers, like, well, they're going to figure it out sooner or later that we have a new name. And the ones that are really stuck on the old name, sure, they can still reference us as that. That's
Sure.
fine. It's not a big deal, but it's just like, no, you just keep moving forward. And the rebrand is just like, no, this is our new vision, our new what we're doing moving forward. And you just gotta do it. And so that restlessness is like to keep innovating, to keep things fresh, to keep kind of um, just always I guess challenging the status quo and not resting on past success, or even past failures or anything like that, but to always just kind of keep things moving forward and keep challenging that. And, how can we keep evolving as
Yeah.
we grow into not only different phases of our business, but different phases of our life as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I say often to people, but also to myself, the second I start feeling comfortable in what I'm doing, I know it's time to really reevaluate. Because if I'm feeling comfortable, I know that I'm not innovating. I'm not pushing forward. Being comfortable is kind of the enemy of innovation, in my opinion. It's not the striving for perfection. It's just being comfortable where you're at.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
I do a lot of rebranding for companies in the industry. And one of the things I come up against a lot is, especially if it's someone who started the company, they're almost, it's painful for them because it's their baby. And what I always tell them, and it really resonates, is I'm not telling you your baby's ugly. I'm telling you your baby's grown up and needs a new set of clothes. And I think
Mhm.
that's kind of what you're saying with Envision. Envision is who you are, and that name served you well for a long period of time. That's not who you are anymore. And I think that's great. I really love that perspective. Tell me, so one of the things I know about you that some people may not is you are an ultra marathoner. I mean, the you're an extreme dude. For a guy who has Midwestern sensibility, you have a very extreme passions in terms of your ultra marathoning. Where does that come from?
I think just that, it kind of goes with the business part of just always innovating and like pushing to see what's possible and pushing out of that comfort zone and, just looking for that challenge that's really going to make you feel alive and give you that sense of accomplishment and um, yeah, just kind of stretch and see what's possible.
I love it.
And I just I don't know. I like that challenge, and I've always looked for that. So right now, I'm training for multiple races. So I qualified for the Boston Marathon
Hey,
coming up.
congratulations. That's no easy feat. Congratulations.
Yeah, so I worked really. So I was doing 100-mile races for the last like 7 years,
Yeah,
and I
let's not
actually
gloss over that. Listeners, 100-mile races. Okay. Let that sink in. Tom, continue.
so I actually hadn't ran a marathon
Mhm.
since Boston in 2018.
Okay.
And except for I run a marathon basically every weekend as part of training. It's just I run it by myself, right? So there's no
Mhm.
crowd, there's no finish line, I'm just out there running, for 4 hours. And so last year I was like, you know what, I want to switch up this challenge. So instead of doing 100 miles and running for 20 or 24 hours in a row, I want to try to break 3 hours in the marathon,
Mhm.
um, and just basically see how fast I can get at the age of 42.
Right.
And so I trained really hard as far as speed goes, and I was able to run a 2 hour and 55 minute marathon, which is like a 6:45 minute
That's crazy.
mile. And so it was faster
Mm.
than what I was running like in high school. And so it that kind of just like amazed me of like what's possible even at this age because I'd been trying to run that fast since I was 30,
Mhm.
and I realized like it just took a lot of time and then also like the discipline and some other
Yeah.
things to get me there. So doing Boston here this spring, but unlike just a regular person who's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go run the Boston Marathon. What I'm going to do is I'm gonna do what's called the Boston Double, and I'm gonna start at the finish line at about 4 a.m. and I'm gonna run to the starting line. And so I get to the start line before the
Get in your
race
corral.
starts. What?
You get in your corral.
Get in the corral and then start the race with everybody else. So for the day, I'll end up at 52 .4 miles instead of just the 26.2.
That is so crazy to me as someone who, and I don't talk a lot about it on social media. You and I have talked about it. I started running about 2.5 years ago. I did my first 5K last year, and I'm doing my first 10K in about 6 or 8 weeks, and I'm training for that. And my goal is, I want to do the 10K under an hour, and I don't want to walk. I don't want to just and no resting walks at all. That's my goal. So when I hear you say, yeah, I'm going to do the Boston Marathon, but that's not really enough. I'm going to do a double Boston Marathon. That is crazy to me. So that's what you can do at 42. This is what you get at 57. So there you go. That's what you got to look forward to.
All right, Bill. So I'll say this: when you were training for your first 5K
Yeah.
and you finished that and you
Yeah.
didn't die,
Yeah.
then somewhere in back in here said, you know what? I think I could do a 10K.
Yeah. Immediately.
Right? And then now you're saying,
Yep.
well, not only can I do a 10K, but
Half.
I can do that 10K without walking.
Right.
So
Right.
so when you finish that and you didn't walk and you didn't die,
Yeah.
you're gonna think, I bet I could sign up for the Nashville Half Marathon.
I've had a couple people tell me that. David Schultz has been on me. He's like, first 5K, you're gonna keep going. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And here I am. And I'm not even, I could run a 10K here in Nashville. No, no, I'm flying to Austin to do it because I want to do it with some friends and stuff. So
Yeah.
it has been I never liked running ever, but now it has become such a part of me. I'm actually a little sick right now. I'm fighting a cold, so I'm not running because I know it'll make me feel 10 times worse. So I'm taking a couple of days off, but I miss it. I miss it. And that I thought I'd never say.
Yeah. So one of the big shifts for me with running was going from the streets to the trails.
Yeah, you do a
And
lot of trail
so
running. I know that.
yeah, so when I get into the woods and on the trails, one, uh, the recovery and just like everything on your joints and muscles and stuff is just so much more forgiving.
I
And
bet.
so you can run, like 5 to 10 times the distance on trails. And so I'm in worse shape after a marathon than I am on a hundred
I
mile
get that.
trail run. And then there's something about like there's just this mental healing power of being in nature.
Yeah.
and being out there that it is like my spiritual sanctuary and this meditative
Yeah.
like state that I get into. So I'm able to kind of go through any blocks I have mentally at work or whatever we're working on at the time. Clear out that I'm able to like figure out what I got to focus on for the day. So it's just like this time that every morning, and if I don't do it, my whole day's thrown off.
Yeah.
So I'm running, right now in Iowa, where it's like 0 degrees, snow on the ground. Like I'm out there bundled up. Once you get going, you get warmed up.
Yep.
I'm running through the winter, through the snow, everything else. But yeah, it's just like this daily ritual.
Yeah, for me, it's the same thing, and I have a cutoff of when I'll run. If it's below 20 degrees, I just can't do it. Because of my medical situation, because I have adult onset type 1 diabetes, my toes don't get fired up enough. And so it feels like
Mm,
needles for the first mile. But if it's above 20, I know that in about a mile, I'm going to feel like it's 40 degrees, and that's just fine. Just need to get the blood pumping a little bit. And I would also think when you're doing the trail running, Tom, I would also think it's really you focus a lot differently because you can be almost a mindless automaton when you're road running because it's very clear where you're going. When you're trail running, I would think, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you really have to pay attention to your surroundings. Where am I stepping? What am I doing? I would think you're much more locked into the actual effort you're putting into it, and it makes you much more a part of it. Much like a golfer, I always found I play better golf when I walk the course than when I'm taking a cart.
hmm Yeah, definitely. It shifts the brain a little bit
Yeah,
on what you're doing, and it's funny because like you have to pay attention every step, but at the same time, you can kind of zone out or you get into like this mode because one, I don't have to worry. I worry about
yeah,
my steps and not tripping, but I don't have to worry about getting hit
sure.
by a car.
Right. Last question I've got. You've recently gone into real estate, passive income through commercial real estate, and calling yourself the fast food landlord, and which is a fascinating. And we could probably talk for 3 hours on that. We can touch on that, but I want to know what parallels you see into the world of branded merchandise, if you see any.
Yeah, I mean, I see it now. I mean, through a whole nother lens and everything else. So
Sure.
our tenants, whether we've got national tenants like Starbucks, Arby's, Applebee's, things like that, um, where, I can see that how they're looking for a space, and how they choose a space. It's based on, location, traffic count.
Hmm.
I didn't know this before investing in it. There's actually like a what they call an AM side of the road and a PM side of the road. So traffic that's generally packed going to work, Starbucks are on that side of the road, and traffic that's on the PM side, the side heading out of town, right, and away from work.
Yeah,
Typically, there's like gas stations and stuff like that where it's like, all right, I gotta fill up with gas, maybe grab something quick for dinner or whatever, or
sure.
like a pizza place, So I was like, gosh, I didn't even know that. So like, so much of that goes into their location and what they're doing, the brand, and the amount that they're willing to spend. Um, on the build out of that space to have the brand kind of cohesiveness
Hmm.
throughout every location. So when you walk through the door, what you're experiencing and what you're getting is going to be the same, no matter where the location's at. So seeing that from a different lens is definitely eye-opening from a landlord's perspective. And then working with the small businesses, we have strip centers where there could be some national tenants, but a lot of times it's small local businesses.
Right.
And so I'm able to like lend my expertise as a landlord because I'm like, all right, the better I can help this business succeed, the
Better
more
for
I
you.
can, I know that they're going to be there longer and they're going to be able to pay their rent on time. And
Right.
so everything from their signage to, a window wrap to, uniforms and everything else, like I'm helping
Yeah.
them out. I'm being like, hey, I would,
By the
I would
way,
do this for you at a discount, or, I think this would be great if you added this or this, or, there's just all sorts of other stuff. So I'm
yeah.
able to kind of lend some of my experience to our tenants, and help them out. And just, you know, it's fun seeing that and being able to do it. And then knowing like long term, we get some of the reward from that as well.
Love it. Tom, you've said it all. Perhaps you said too much. Before I let you go, I want to thank our sponsor. This episode of Between Two Brands has been brought to you by the good folks over at Coaster Stone, home of the original absorbent stone coaster. Now, with that combination of stone cold quality, striking decoration, super low cost per impression, retail packaging, and unmatched value, David Glenn and his team at Coaster Stone are ready to help you make a rock solid impression with your clients. Email them at promo@coasterstone.com today. Tom, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your very busy schedule to do this. You've been on my radar to do this for a while, so I appreciate it, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
All right, can we get 5 minutes of bonus time?
Bonus time, let's go.
All right, so listeners, if you want to sign off, you don't have to listen to the rest, but I want to ask Bill some questions
All right.
about tell us about promocations for anyone that's listening
Okay.
that doesn't know about promocations. Tell us where this idea came from.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Promocations is a joint venture between myself and Josh Robbins, who owns Vault Promotions, badge company here in Nashville, the only badge company you'd ever need, by the way, vaultpromos.com. We were sitting, and what we do is we put on networking events for the promotional products industry, getting suppliers and distributors together, but we don't do it in sucky places. We don't do it in an embassy suites. We do it on a cruise ship. We do it on at world-class resorts, and we have an event coming up this year in Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic in October. The idea was exactly what it is. Josh and I were sitting in my backyard, just a few feet from me, and we were barbecuing and drinking bourbon and thinking about how could we make events better. And he had the original idea of we could make the event about all the good stuff of the event, not the sessions. It's all because it's always about the conversations in the hallways, the drink before dinner, the time during dinner, the shenanigans that happen. That's where the real business happens, especially in the promotional products industry, because it's such a relationship driven business. And that's where it started. And we decided to do it on a cruise ship. I wish I had the name Promocations. I did not. That was Josh. That was 100% Josh. But we just decided let's do it on a cruise ship. And it went off flawlessly. And so we bring in about 15 suppliers and they bring their plus one. And that's one of the ways we differentiate. We have everybody bring their plus one. So it doesn't feel like this debauched eye candy floating in the middle of the ocean, for lack of a better term. So that's one part we differentiate. The other part is we have suppliers nominate uh, distributor guests that they want to have in their plus ones, and that makes it so they're respond. They first of all, suppliers never have a say in who attends these networking events, and so it's important that they do that. They're the ones footing most of the bill, and so they should have a say. But we have certain requirements from a sales perspective that distributors need to have, and usually ends up being about 60 to 80 people. And the bonds that form on these trips, Tom, I knew it was going to be good, but I never thought it was going to be this good. I mean, it is like this roving band of people who have a shared experience. And when you think about life, you think about the seminal moments in your life, it's usually a shared experience. And I'm not going to say it's on par with, life affirming events like getting married or having children, but I cannot tell you how many times I hear, not just directly from people, but just from others who haven't been on, hey, I hear it's the best event in the industry. So that we love it. We love it. It's a lot of work. As you know, you've planned many events with Shirt Lab and things like that. It's not easy. You are relieved when it's over, and then 3 days later, you're like, what are we doing next?
Yeah, no doubt. So what's if there's a supplier or distributor listening, like what's one way they can get in touch, check it out, maybe get involved with this?
I did not ask Tom to do this, but I'm super happy he did. Tom, they can go to promocations.com or they can email us at relax@promocations.com. Like I said, we have one event this year. It's a land-based event in Punta Cana in Dominican Republic. It's October, I think, 18th through the 22nd. And you can find all that information on our website. You can email us, like I said, at relax@promocations.com. We've got about 85% returning suppliers. So we're actually almost full. And we don't allow competing suppliers. So you lock down a category, for example. Coaster Stone, they're one of the people, they sponsor this podcast, but they're also coming on the Promocations to Punta Cana. So, and we also keep a couple distributor spots open too. If there's a distributor who says, I'm not getting invited, I want to go. and we have people do that. And let us know. We'll get you in.
That's awesome. No, I love it. Love watching what you're doing and seeing that. And I think you hit the nail on the head, like that shared experience, the when you tie like the emotion into it and just like this unique
Yeah,
curated experience in exclusive spots.
yeah,
It takes it's so much different than meeting somebody at a trade show booth and shaking their hand. Like you just don't remember that. Like it all
right.
kind of blends together. But when you have these unique shared experiences in a
Hmm.
cool location, the bonds that it forms, and then when you
Yeah,
see that person later on at the trade show, then it's like, yes, let's go grab a drink and catch up, and
absolutely.
let's do this, and what's working well in your business, and tell us about like some great thing that
Yeah,
from a supplier side, it's like, all right, tell me what's working. Like, what can I use in my business that you see other distributors crushing it with.
yeah,
And I love talking to suppliers about that. It's like, all right, what am I missing that, somebody else is doing really well that I can, adopt and use in our local market.
yeah,
And you don't get, all those, what I would maybe call inside nuggets or even
yeah.
just like go that deep without those relationships built. So I think
And
it's
and that
absolutely amazing.
that's what we found. I think some suppliers at first bristled of like, okay, there's only going to be 20 distributors here. Sure, they all do $1 million each, but there's only 18 or whatever. Here's the thing, it's quality over quantity, and you get 4.5, 5 days of dedicated time. So you're by the pool, you might be having a Mai Tai, you might be having a glass of water, but you're going to talk about things. You're just going to naturally talk about it. And then when you bring in the added aspect of the plus ones, it makes it like we all went on vacation together. We talked about business half the time. And like my favorite success story. Um, Kelly Yarbrough at SOC 101 came on our second promo cruise, and he really loved it. He and his wife came, and within a week of leaving the promo cruise, he wrote $150,000 worth of distributor business. Susan Lewandowski from Bell Promo will tell you, we write business on the boat. It's really compelling. I mean, one of the things, I talk about you being restless and you know who you are. One of the things I've learned about me, I love building things. And creating something from nothing gives me the biggest business high I could ever have. And working with someone who I love and respect like Josh and building something that didn't exist before into something that actually has meaning, I dig it.
I love it. Good stuff. All right, we
All
can
right,
wrap up the
Tom.
show now. That's all I
Now
got, I
we'll
think.
now we'll double wrap it up, kids. We'll see you next time. Thank you, Tom. We'll see you next time on Between Two Brands.